20 seconds to go.
They don't get any better than this. If you like a prize fight, this is better than more. And down finally he goes. That's the first time he scored down. Counts up to 5 and 6. Danrich might as well stop this. There's no sense in him taking anymore.
I think that was back of the head if we look at the replay.
And that's it. It's all over. Danrich let him go out on his feet. That's a big, big fight for Kambosos, and I give all the credit in the world to Bella.
Hello viewers and listeners of Boxing News TV. I'm Steve Wellings and I'm delighted to be joined on the call here by George Kambosos Jr. George, how are you today?
I'm going great. Pleasure obviously to be on the show.
Excellent stuff. You were just telling me there it's actually Australia Day for those listeners who don't know what goes on. What's Australia Day all about, George?
Well, it's just the national holiday obviously over here in Australia, celebrating the country that we live in.
Brilliant stuff. Let's get on to the boxing then, shall we? George Ferocious Kambosos Jr. Just like to find out how you started off into boxing, really, as a youth. When did you first lace up the gloves and enter a gym?
Well, obviously, rugby league, which you guys had that over there as well. I was playing rugby league as a young kid. Being a young Greek-Australian kid, a little bit obese, bullied at school, shy kid. So we decided, look, we need to get in some sort of off-season sport to help my rugby league. And boxing was the choice. So we went over to the boxing gym. And before you know it, 6 months in, to 14 kilos, from a 60-kilo 12-year-old all the way down to about 44. And, the boxing took off. I pushed the rugby league to the side and stuck with the boxing game. And, about 12, 13 years later, I'm sitting at number 5 in the world now.
Excellent stuff. There's nothing like getting a bit of boxing training to keep the bullies off. I mean, how did that come about? As in, were you being bullied at school? Was it a neighbourhood thing? What was it? Physical, verbal bullying? What was going on?
Look, just the normal bullying, obviously, at school. Being an overweight kid, you finish last with whatever you do. You're doing the running or you're playing sport, you pick last. No confidence really in myself. And boxing obviously gave me that confidence, made me lose a lot of weight and decided to find, the person I actually am. And it's really helped me in my boxing game because, funny story is when I used to play rugby league and the coach would always say, let's do our laps of the oval. And every kid there doing the laps would obviously cut the corners and I would actually sit there and do each corner. I still come last, but my father, who's my manager, Jimmy, he would say, mate, why don't you cut the corner and see if you finish second last trying to test me? And I go, no. And this is about 11-year-old kid, I said, no, I'll do it the proper way. And it'll obviously help me in the future. And, it has, now when I'm running them late nights or, when I'm sore from sparring and I've got to put that road work or whatever I'm doing, that obviously all plays, a role today to be the man I am.
Boxing obviously sometimes gets a bit of a bad rap. There's always the same sort of people, talking about the violence aspect, trying to get it banned and stuff. But it really does play a vital role in communities and in society wider, in a general point. I mean, you might as well have two lads duking it out in the ring in sparring or in a professional context rather than going and hitting each other with bottles on the streets. That's the purpose of boxing serves, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, I've seen so many young kids who have been troubled youth and, they've come into the boxing gym, and we have a good thing here in Australia. It's the PCYCs. Similar, I think, to over you guys in the UK. I think you got the YMCAs, or in the US they got that. And it just takes a lot of young kids, troubled youth, into the boxing gym. It gives them that discipline, teaches them the right way and the right road. And it'd be funny to see how many kids from the streets, become champions. And like you said, you rather, do it in the ring than out on the street.
You're in Sydney at the moment, George. What's it like? Whereabouts you live in? I mean, what type of area is it? I'm not familiar with Australia. I've never been before. How is it where you live?
Yeah, I'm in the south side area in Sydney, close to the beach and stuff. So obviously get a lot of road work down the beach. Nice area. Sydney's a beautiful place, but it's where I live. Where I train is actually in LA for the big fights. I head over to Justin Fortune and Freddie Roach. They're my coaches, and that's where I do all the work. I spar the best fighters in the world.
Yeah, Justin Fortune, I remember him fighting Lennox Lewis. Obviously, that's some good experience. Does he give you words of encouragement, advice, obviously, passing on that wealth of experience that him and Freddie have for a young fighter like yourself?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously Justin is an ex-Aussie as well. He lives in America now, but ex-Australian, so that plays hand in hand. It's actually come from his mouth. He says I'm the best thing to come out of Australia for a very, very long time. And it's great working alongside him, and obviously Freddie Roach as well, being a legendary trainer. And having these guys behind me is awesome, and I can't wait to get back there in the next couple of weeks.
Just before we dig into your career, George, you mentioned your father there, Jimmy. You're from a Greek background. How has that shaped your life and your boxing career so far?
Yeah, I'm from a Greek background, and obviously, the Greeks, the descendants of the Spartans. That's the way I look at it when I fight. That inner Spartan comes out, and you would have seen Michael Katsidis, who I know quite well. He's come over to the UK and has some wars, and you see the way he fights. That's that inner Spartan inside us Greeks. I've got a lot of fans, a lot of supporters, a lot of Greeks in the UK that hit me up, and plenty of Greeks here in Australia and in the US and all over the world. And it's good, one thing with the Greeks, they really follow and back their own. So it's awesome having that behind me. Not only that, but having a lot of support around the world behind me.
Yeah, just to give the listeners a bit more detail, George is 24 years of age. He's 13-0 with 7 knockouts. You've really stepped up in the last few fights, George, just looking at your record. Brandon Ogilvy was 17-1-1 when you defeated him for the WBA Oceania lightweight title. You then took an undefeated record off Camille Bala and then stepped up again against Croy Sethapon in your last fight. A couple of titles there, IBF Pan Pacific, WBA Oceania. There's a lot of titles around in boxing, but in this case, this is pushing you on maybe with the ranking system, as you say. It's pushed you up to number 5, so you are moving on up in the ranking systems now.
Yeah, definitely. Well, them two names, Ogilvy and Bala, they're big names here in Australia. And when I took out Ogilvy, he was number 10 in the WBA. Just come over. Had a draw with the Japanese number 1 Kato, he actually won that fight. That kind of ripped him off and gave it a draw. So he was coming off a big fight. And he was number 10. I was number 13 in the WBA. Number 1, number 2 versus in Australia. So huge fight, huge grudge fight. And we went hell and leather, back and forth for 12 rounds. Obviously, I won pretty much every round, but it was a great entertaining fight. And the same with the Bala fight. This guy was a light welterweight, an Australian champion, a Commonwealth Games representative, a very big amateur career, undefeated. And he came down to lightweight, thinking his size and what he brought to the ring was going to be enough for him. But I picked him apart, and what a better card to do it on the undercard, the co-main for Joseph Parker, who's going to fight Anthony Joshua. So a lot of eyes would have been turned that night.
You're ranked number 5 by the WBA, as we said. The current champion in the WBA lightweight rankings is the excellent Jorge Linares. There's talk of him possibly fighting Mikey Garcia if Garcia can get past Lipinets. Who do you think would win if those two got together? Because that would be a real high-quality affair.
That's a great fight. These guys have been champs for a long time, so you've got to respect them. Look, don't rule out Lipinets. I've done a lot of rounds with Sergey Lipinets. He's fighting Mikey. We've done plenty of rounds before he won the world title. And Sergey can bang. I don't know how well he can box, and I know Mikey can box pretty well. I think Mike will probably get him, but definitely be watching that. And you got Linares this week fighting Gesta, who is also trained by Justin and Freddie. So that's very interesting too. If he somehow pulls it out the hat, I'd like to be the first guy to get a crack at him. But look, hopefully we do see Linares and Mikey's, this year, and one can be minus from the equation, and we'll see who's got the belt, and hopefully we get a shot at them. But another guy is obviously the UK's own Anthony Crolla, another guy that's really in our sights and would love to fight any time, and obviously come to the UK and do it.
You would be happy to travel to the UK to fight Crolla? Yeah,
definitely. Or Campbell, 100%. I'd love to earn my stripes by coming to the UK and fighting. Obviously Crolla been a great champion for you guys and ambassador of the sport in the UK to come over there in Manchester, in his hometown, and fight him in his backyard and beat him in his backyard. I think that's how you earn your stripes.
Certainly is. Just to remind the listeners of Boxing News TV, we're on with George Kambosos Jr. Am I pronouncing your surname right, George?
Yeah, you got it pretty well, man. Kambosos. It's a bit of a hard one to get, but you got it down packed.
And you're over on Twitter at George Kambosos. Are you on Instagram or Facebook or any other platforms?
Yeah, Instagram's the big one. That's where there's a lot of followers on there. Just George Kambosos Jr. And the Facebook page got a lot of followers as well. George Ferocious Kambosos Jr. So I only just started the Twitter page not long ago. So I'm trying to build it up. But Instagram and Facebook is where there's a lot of followers and a lot of support from all over the world.
Yeah, we'll definitely be following you. Just going back to the boxing, you obviously mentioned you've been training over with Justin Fortune, Freddie Roach. I believe you were sparring Manny Pacquiao for the Jeff Horn fight. Is that right? How did that go?
Yeah, I was Manny's main sparring partner for the Horn fight. No, we had a great camp, really good camp. It's a shame what happened in the fight. Obviously, I was backing Manny. I was behind him, and I still believe he won the fight. Very close fight. Him being the champion, I think you got to really take that belt off him, and I don't think Jeff just done that, but they gave him the fight, they gave him the decision, and it is what it is. We had a really good camp. Obviously, myself to get there was awesome. I had to go through some solid sparring before I was even asked to go spar Manny. I was sparring his sparring partners, Ray Beltran and Jose Ramirez, who's both fighting for the world titles. One's a lightweight, one's a light welterweight. So after doing a lot of sparring with them boys, Freddie, hit me up and goes, "Look, you want to go spar Manny Pacquiao for the Jeff Horn fight? Obviously, you're an Aussie, and how do you feel about coming over? Is that all right?" So look, Freddie, man, I'm the bad guy in Australia anyway. I cop a lot of hate, obviously, online, and I say it the way it is. And people don't like the real talk that I like to produce leading into fights. I go, "Man, I'm more than happy to come and help Manny." And what better, sparring an all-time great like Manny Pacquiao.
You mentioned Michael Katsidis earlier, obviously Jeff Horn. When I think of Australian boxing, I think of the likes of Danny Green recent years, Anthony Mundine, thinking of Big Bob Mirovic. I mean, who would you have looked up to? Who would you be your inspirations on the Australian boxing scene?
Look, I don't really have any inspirations on the Australian scene. I've obviously watched everybody. I've seen everyone fight, and as a young kid coming up, just watching, but none of them really inspired me and made me want to, I got to turn professional because these guys are doing such a great thing. But I know all them guys you just mentioned. I know them quite well. They've done their part for Australian boxing, and to be mentioned from guys like yourself in the UK, as names from Australia, that just gives me a platform as well, to be mentioned, and hopefully I make my name even bigger in the world.
You're one of the future stars of Aussie boxing, there's no doubt about that. Anybody else we should be watching out for? Anyone you've sparred? Anyone in the Sydney area or the wider Australian area that we should be looking out for in the future?
Look, there's some solid guys. It's hard to pick because a lot of guys, the funny thing in Australia, they're not fighting each other. They're all trying to find a different route through the world ratings and going a different way. I've actually fought the two solid guys in the division and beat them. But both of them boys, that I just said, that I fought, Camille Barlow and Brano Over, both solid guys. And, I'm sure they got a future if they decide to move up or down in weight or whatever they do, solid guys. And there's some other guys as well coming up, which I'm sure you'll hear about as well.
You got stuck into the title scene quite quickly. You fought for the Australian, I think it was the state title in your third fight. Are you the type of guy, George, that just didn't want to be hanging around? You wanted to get straight on with it and test yourself against a reasonable level of opposition sooner rather than later?
Yeah, 100%. I turned pro at 19, but I didn't want to waste any time. I've had 100 amateur fights. I travelled all around the world, fought the best fighters in the world in the amateur game, in the amateur circuit. And for my first pro fight, I said, "Look, pull me in with anyone. I don't care." I go, "But I want a 6-rounder. I want 6 rounds." I knew that I'd probably take this guy out in 1 or 2, but I just wanted the 6 rounds straight away. Then we jumped it up straight away to 8, and then obviously a 10-rounder for the Australian title. And I beat a very experienced 2-time Australian champion, beat him pretty much every round. So, I'm the kind of guy people look at my record and say, "Wow, he's 13-0. He's sitting at number 5 in the world. He hasn't had as many fights," but you got to look at the guys I've been fighting some solid competition in the last year and a half. And the guys I've been sparring, I've sparred all the world champions, current world champions, legends of the sport, So I'm more than ready to fight these big names, and we're really hoping that we can get these big names on the resume.
You've beaten 2 of the real competitors on the Australian scene, like you mentioned, Barla and Ogilvy. Another guy who came to mind, Kai McKenzie, 25 years of age. Would you fight Kai? Would you see that as a backward step now? How do you stand on that one?
No, definitely. Look, I'm all for Australian fights, and that's another exciting fight if the promoters can get it made. And there has been a lot of talk about it, and promoters are going back and forth with us. So, look, I'm sitting at number 5 in the world. As long as they pay me my worth, I'm more than happy to take out another rival and end another career in Australia. Doesn't bother me.
What is your promotional situation, George? Obviously, you're going back and forwards to LA. I mean, are you Australian promoted? Are you looking to become American based and promoted? What's the plan?
Look, at the moment, I'm a free agent. I have multiple promoters with contracts sent to me, and all around the world, guys in America, guys here. So at the moment, look, we're not signing anything at the moment. I pretty much got myself to number 5 in the world. And, I believe the way we're pushing, we can easily get to number 1 and fight for a title as a free agent. But then again, if a solid promoter comes along, the guys like Eddie Hearn or some real big guys, I'm more than happy to sit down and talk and see what they offer. But at the moment, you got to think I've got to myself number 5 in the world, doing it by myself with my team and the guys around me. So I've got great coaches around me. I've got a great team. My manager, Jimmy's doing a great job. I've got a really good agent at US, Peter Khan. He's doing a great job over there. So we're more than happy at the moment what we're doing.
Yeah, Eddie Hearn's obviously gone into the American market with Matchroom Boxing USA. They are looking for new talent. Eddie could become a player on the American scene alongside the more traditional guys, the likes of PBC and Bob Arum as well.
Yep, 100%. He's got that New York office over there. He's trying to build it in New York. What better to have a Greek fighting in New York? There's a huge population of Greeks over in New York. So that was obviously discussed with some promoters over there, some big name promoters over there, but we couldn't come to a finalisation with some figures and stuff. So we've had to push back with one of them guys. But look, the plan is to be fighting in the US. That is the plan. That's where they want me. That's where I want to be. But if I've got to keep moving forward here in Australia and keep fighting the best here and bringing solid competition over here, then we'll keep doing that till we get our crack.
Final couple of questions, George, and we do thank you for your time here. The IBF champion, lightweight Robert Easter Jr., got a win in one of his defences against Javier Fortuna there quite recently. It was a very close fight, Easter Jr. in the Fortuna fight and also in his previous fight against Denis Shafikov has looked a little bit beatable, I think. What do you make of Easter Jr. in general and his last couple of performances?
Yeah, look, he's a very beatable guy. You got to think this guy, I believe, has been given a belt. He won it against Richard Kumi, the African guy who's nothing special either. So I believe he's been gifted the belt. He hasn't won it off anyone. It was a vacant belt. Me and him have gone back and forth on Twitter. We've had a bit of a beef between each other. So more than happy to fight this guy. I've said it already. More than happy to fight any of the champions. So any one of them, I'm happy to fight and go in their backyards and take the belt off them, or if it's a vacant belt, work it out where it's going to be, and we've got ourselves a fight.
Just away from the ring, George, what do you do to relax, hobbies-wise, and do you think about your future past boxing and so forth?
Look, I love training. People ask me, what do you do in your downtime? I go, look, I'll train. I'll go run. I'm a gym rat. That's what I am. I love to be in the gym. If I'm not training, I'm going to try help young kids out and give them, some tips in the gym and do some ab work with them. But lately, I've actually got myself into a little bit of fishing, so that's kind of a little bit of a hobby now. Taking the rod out and just relaxing the mind, or obviously watching some fights as well. I'm watching some old school fights. Duran, Hagler, guys like that is awesome to watch. So, no better than watching the old school fighters where you can pick up some different things and add them to your fight game.
I think that'll do it. I think that's a wrap. So we do thank George Kambosos Jr. for joining us on Boxing News TV. Undefeated Australian prospect, really building a name for himself at the moment. 13-0, 7 knockouts, the WBA Oceania champion, IBF Pan Pacific champion, and he's ranked number 13 by the WBO and number 5 by the WBA. We shall watch his career with interest at George Kambosos on Twitter, also on Instagram, and a bit of a Facebook following as well. George, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today. Do you have any messages to the fans who might be listening?
It's awesome to be on and to speaking to you guys. So I want to obviously thank all my supporters around the world. You guys, obviously, a lot of guys have been supporting for a long time, and they know that title is very close. All the support in the UK as well, and I've got a lot of support over there, and I hope to fight there very soon. And if Anthony Crolla gets a hold of this chat that we're having, more than happy to fight you in your backyard and take out the former world champion.
Brilliant stuff, George. We hope to catch up with you again soon whenever you've progressed on towards the world scene. No doubt that will happen. Thank you for your time again today.
Anytime. Thank you.
Cheers.